Right. It is definitely a moment that we've been waiting for. It is time for the summit. It is the summit o'clock. And I want to say thank you very much for making time. It is definitely a show that we get to scale the heights to bring you some of the conversations that we need to actually talk about right here on the program. Tonight on the program, we are actually putting a spotlight on the artificial intelligence policy that is actually in the offing. And we want to just get to understand what does it entail, what policy direction is it taking, what are your questions, what are your concerns. We understand the power that AI will have or is already having within the different spheres of our operations and even our careers and our general life or well-being. And of course, we have some concerns also on that particular line, and we want to understand what is this policy going to be able to address as far as that is concerned. Of course, those who are already embracing AI from whichever space that you are in, how is it like and what would you like this particular policy to actually address in terms of the recommendations that we've also seen that this policy is also recommending. We'll try to delve into that right here in the course of the program. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Please be in touch with us. Get in touch on our social media platforms. Use the hashtag #TheSummitRW. That's the particular hashtag that we'll be tracking throughout this particular show. Please, when you tweet, when you write your comment, always add that particular hashtag. It will make it easier for us to be able to track your particular comment or feedback. Now, in studio with me is none other than Mufut Nkurunziza, who's the founder and CEO of Guess Show. And of course, he and his team have already been incorporating AI in the work that they do. He'll be able to talk a bit more about that. And of course, we are also waiting for Victor Muvunyi, who is from the Ministry of ICT and Innovation. He actually is supposed to be joining us to be able to shed more light on this particular policy. We've been in touch with him throughout, and of course, we're hoping that he will be able to make it before we get too far in the program. Victor Muvunyi is in charge, or is actually one of those working as an emerging tech specialist within the Ministry of ICT and Innovation. So Mufut, thank you so much for making time. Thank you for joining us on this particular program. And I want to start off even before we get Victor to join us from the Ministry of ICT to shed more light on the AI policy. Share with us a bit more, especially on how the work that you do, is leveraging on artificial intelligence. And then we'll be able to talk a bit more about how this particular AI policy would be able to support you and others to be able to continue to thrive in the business that you do.
Thank you, Eugene. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm Mufut Nkurunziza, founder and CEO of Guess Show. We are a CGI company, a company that specializes in producing computer graphics content. Over the course of last few days, if you will, since AI, has been booming. We've been integrating, different aspects of AI into our workflow. I would say, Rwanda, as a government, taking initiative to creating, policy, around these guidelines is something that is going to be quite, beneficial. And I think, of course, like Rwanda is always, at the forefront, like at the emerging technologies. And also, I think, added to the fact, the country would say, it's very agile when something is new. It's tried out, not only in AI, but also, in other things. So definitely, I would say, overall, it's something we are quite using now. We're using, all available tools to sort of increase our productivity and different aspects of work.
Right. So meaning the work that you do is highly dependent on artificial intelligence. And then if you can be able just to share with us, especially when it comes to the aspect of, the skill set, because this particular policy, what we've been able to see, it aims at positioning Rwanda as Africa's AI lab and responsible AI champion. And this will not be practical if the skills on how to actually use AI is available. So what was the challenge for you in terms of getting the right team that understands, the direction you want to take and be able to incorporate the skills needed to use AI in your operations?
Yeah, so I would say in terms of skill sets, as a team, like, we a group of, I would say, self-driven individuals. Yeah. Even like, at the basics of it, the work we do requires quite a lot, of research, because all this is, computer graphics. So for us, it has been like, the typical process of always looking at the, emerging new things, that are coming up. Yeah, so same way we quite learn, other tools and things, that help us, do better work and efficiently. We are always on the lookout to, to identify that and also incorporate that within our process. Yes.
So how easy or how difficult was it like to get the right team with the right skill set that can be able to understand, how the AI tools work in CGI?
Yeah, so I think, our company is 10 years. We I would say still size-wise, in relationship to the size of other studios elsewhere, on the things like, we have in the pipeline. We're a team of 15 people, like right now, full-time, but in the bigger scope of what the companies like ours, typically the team they have, that's not quite a lot. So, but we've been together for, for several years. Planning, it's quite, something that is embedded in what we do. So, and again, sort of reason why I was mentioning about the size is, it's additionally, it is definitely, it is very, very important for AI, because for us, then that is the thing that is going to help us compensate, on the size aspect of what typically takes, to do things. Yeah, but to build the team, as the question you asked, I would say, I don't know, like it's a group, that has been together, for quite some years. Our company has started off in K-Lab. It's, young folks from local universities who are really hungry and passionate. And also, these days it's quite easy, there's so much material online, you can use to learn pretty much anything. All you need is a use case, and then you practice as you learn.
And you perfect that. So this particular AI policy, just talk to us a bit about, from the consumers or those who really be working or guided by this particular policy, what sort of voice would you be putting to the policymakers or those involved in the policy formulation and giving it direction? What is it that you want?
I would say, also like, for us, right now as a company, we are still on the end of, consumers, like, but also like, in our ecosystem, there are different companies that are actually building, AI tools, and also definitely local companies and some international tools we are using. But speaking from a consumer point of view, I would say for policymakers, it is important, to definitely build policies that are flexible. When something is like, highly regulated, fixed, that's something that could stifle, innovation and, for people trying out things. So I would say really making it, a bit loose, allowing innovation, but also at the same time, of course, protecting any harm that could come with it.
So there's need for a lot of flexibility in that sense. Now, there are those who have been afraid of embracing AI within their spaces, especially employers or business owners, and part of the reason has always been, even when they're interviewing, potential candidates for a role, there's the aspect of testing their critical thinking skills. And there's been an argument that AI tools take away the critical thinking of this employee. I want to hear from you as a founder of a business that is actually fully immersed into AI. What would you say about that notion? What would you say about that perception?
Really, I would say that's like, total misconception. Like, anything that is new, that is...
Like AI makes it so easy. We want you to think on your own critically.
Yeah, but it still doesn't stop, and even for me, I would think like it is helpful because, in terms of like really paving the way of where you can start.
Yeah.
Because like, when you use any sort of, generative AI tool to sort of come up with some ideas, it comes up real quick.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't stop you to think outside what the AI has provided, because also the better way to think about it, you need to know AI is like a person, is like a child. So far, what it does, it is what this tool has been fed. Yeah, so, for some people, not being able to to think on their own because they are using, basic inputs AI can provide. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, for me, I think it's really, it helps you to get to the point, and then, you start on the next level.
On the next level.
Yeah.
So this is what you're saying to business owners, supervisors. They need to start embracing or accepting the fact that their staff is using AI tools.
100%. Like, not having AI, that's backwards. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get better.
Yeah. So you bump into one of your staff using ChatGPT. You say this is very okay. Continue.
Super perfect. Question is, what are you building on top of that? How are you, whatever these initial inputs you receive, how are you using them? Because things need context, the whole misconception that AI is going to come in and take people out of job, that's a false, It's going to take out people who don't want to do better, or, if you want to do something definitely much better, AI can only serve you a foundation, at least as of now. And also, so that's pretty much what I can say. So you need to use whatever initial impulse it gives you, and then you build
up on it. Because what we're trying to talk about already right now is the ethical use of AI, because we know of a leader who actually had to resign because the speech that they actually delivered, they were accused of having used ChatGPT to actually put together that particular speech. And so I want to understand from where you sit, let's talk a bit about the aspect of ethics in terms of the AI tools, because today it's very difficult to distinguish what is true and what is not true. We have AI tools that can actually mimic my own voice and be able to deliver a voice note that it is not me who actually said that. We've seen even news anchors who people have used their images to generate, adverts for some products through AI. And for those who are not able to look between the lines and read between the lines, they would not be able to distinguish whether that's true or not true. We can be able to place you at a scene that you're not in or you're not there. So let's talk a bit about the aspect of ethical use of AI and what you'd wish this policy to do to be able to protect you and even those who are actually consuming the content that is generated by AI.
I guess from what you're saying, that's why the need of identifying stuff that were done by AI or by the actual person should be. So I guess in terms of regulation, there should be a bit of markers or identifiers, something that would identify that this was AI produced, because the line is very thin, or it's not even there. When it comes to things you can create using AI, people won't know. Like, they can put you in some stuff, or you endorse stuff
that you're not really
you wouldn't normally do. yeah, that would be quite bad. So I think, in terms of, policies, and regulating all that is to find a way how things should be labeled, from AI or, non-AI, as a matter of just to, as a proof of authenticity. And I know same efforts that were put into creating AI, they can equally do, for identifying those kind of things.
So what you're saying is, if I did a research paper and I used an AI tool to be able to help me generate some of the content, I should be able to label, put a sticker and say part of this research, the generation of it was supported by an AI tool.
Definitely.
You think people would do that?
Well, that comes, to personal integrity or ethics, but, technically they should.
They should be able to do that. Yeah. You know what? We'll continue our conversation. I want just to tell you from wherever part you're watching from, we will continue our conversation. And what I want you to do is just jump onto our social media platforms. Please ask your questions that you'd like the policy makers, those who are actually working to actually put together this AI policy. What is it that you'd like them to actually consider? What are your questions? What are your concerns? How would you like AI tools to fully be utilized for socio-economic good and for, social change? In which particular ways would you like, AI tools to be used? What are your fears? What are your concerns? I'd love to hear that. And of course, I know that the teams from the Ministry of ICT and Innovation are actually watching this, and they'll be able to pick some of those particular comments, or actually all of those particular comments or that feedback. Please do share those thoughts. I want to read them in the course of this conversation. Let's talk, you, myself, and of course Mufut here will have our conversation even as we wait for Victor from the Ministry of ICT to join us in case he actually makes it on this particular program. Mufut, I want to talk a bit about the aspect of creating centers of excellence, because this particular AI policy is recommending such. There's need to be able to put together a very globally competitive STEM skills that will be able to allow people to be able to create these particular AI tools. Because when we talk about consumption of AI solutions or content, a lot of it is actually not locally generated, locally produced. And so these tools even don't understand our language, don't understand our context. You type in on ChatGPT or an AI tool to give you a picture of an African man, and what it does, it gives you someone with dreadlocks, because probably the person who generated that and fed it that kind of notion. So even as you embrace AI within the space that you work in, let's talk a bit about the aspect of us as Africans, us as Rwandans, being part of the journey of creating these AI tools, feeding them with the information based on our own context. What will be needed to achieve that?
That's a very, very, I think, a good point, you're making. So I think there's still space for localized content, because AI, what it is right now, is the reflection of what it has been consuming. Generally, African content, it hasn't been much as any other kind of content online. So definitely, when you do ask, this AI is gonna give you whatever is there. So, which also I would say, it is still, when also people talk about, people being replaced by, AI. That also falls into that category, because when you talk about African, typical, traditional African stuff, there hasn't been much of that imagery or content or context or text, whatever, online, even languages. So I would also like actually, speak about, there's one of our partner company, local company, Pindo, which is like, at the forefront of, bringing, some of, our local languages, building some AI, for them. And they've been working on Kinyarwanda. Eventually they'll get, into Swahili. That's an area definitely, if, local companies, sit around, that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's only going to be English.
Yeah.
So definitely for these local languages, that is needed. And also, if I speak specifically for our company, we are into content creation, CGI, and also, we have a feature film like we are working on, that is in pre-production.
Yeah.
And some people, would say maybe AI can make a film for you. Yes, there's a whole lot can do. But right now, can you tell this AI, make for me something that is specific, maybe, to Nyamasheke, that look,
It might not be able to give you that because it doesn't have that context in that sense.
Yeah, so you need to train it.
Yeah.
And,
we need to train it. But then if we talk a bit about being deliberate, driven by a policy that, drives towards the aspect of the creation aspect of this particular AI content that speaks our language, speaks our context, what will be needed beyond just saying we need to do it? How do we achieve that we need to do to be able to speak or to have these AI tools speak the language you speak or understand the context that we are speaking in that sense? What do we do?
Yeah, so I guess, as had mentioned earlier, we need more practitioners, in the field. Yeah, so right now when it comes to things of, text, speech, there's a company like Pindo, and definitely there should be few even, other companies. When it comes, to imagery, as much as we are not building a tool that other companies could use, but with everything we create, we are feeding, all these general engines, whatever that consumes, and AI is, used to train on. Yeah, so I think it's to really produce, make localized content, and then use it to train simply different AI, tools.
Do you also think that there will be need for an intergenerational conversation for the level of understanding of these new technologies that are emerging, including AI, especially within the spaces that offer job opportunities or, for example, even the kind of work that you do, how easy or how difficult is it to be able to convince someone even to understand what you're doing? Because without a proper understanding, then we might not be able to have what this particular policy is aiming to achieve. It says to accelerate responsible AI adoption in the private sector, for example. If, let's say, employers do not fully have a proper understanding of the use of new technologies, they might not even understand the creators of this kind of work, and therefore even seeing them as important within these spaces will not really be, because we see a lot of generational gaps that often lead to that, where you find someone within the Gen Z space and generation is not really getting it. So if we're going to use AI or these emerging technologies within private sector spaces, what will be needed to shift the mindsets of those who are there and could probably not be understanding these whole things? How do we do it? Because it's easy to educate the young generation, but how do we train the other generation?
That's a real concern.
Yeah.
And I think, one way of really to look at this, again, this is personal. So you decide, that, you need to understand that, you have to change, and the world is constantly changing. And also you have to understand whoever is coming after you, they are coming in with the latest technology that is there. You could be a guru, whatever, top of your game, but, always someone that is new, that, that is just arriving, that goes onto the internet and be like, how can I solve this? I would say, in a particular example, there is something we are trying to do at work, and that, this thing, was taking long, and of course we had an experienced team, and we were there, for long, and then we gave someone, this was an intern, like, go make this thing. And we gave him, like, specifically, instructions of how to do it. And, he worked on this, for several hours. And then we came to find out, that method we gave him, it wasn't practical. And he came up with something
different.
They use exactly AI. Like, it was a few clicks. And we were like, wow, okay, this is what it means. Like, if you've been in something for long, there are things you're going to, as human being, naturally, you like comfort. Change, you need to seek for change. If you don't, it's not going to happen. And the best way, like, from institution point of view, you need always to, give room for, new people who are thinking differently, who are trying to solve things in a different way you don't normally do. And even probably not even try to influence them that this is how it's done. You're going to be surprised. They're going to come up with things, on how doing things efficiently, and then you sort of, put that in the bigger pipeline, with your experience. So I would say typically, new people that are coming, I would say Gen Z, they are using whatever latest thing that is available. And I would say there is a fine balance, If you've been in something for long, there's a 50% of things you have that are useful, and the other ones is just legacy stuff you probably need to get rid of. And also for them, they have new things, but they don't have an understanding of how big
to use them.
So it's always to find that perfect balance.
Right. I'm told Victor is here, and I think we can have Victor join us on set. Victor, please come on studio. We've really been waiting for you. It's been it's almost 30 minutes. Just come, join us. Come join us onto the set. And we want to allow you to be able to just share your thoughts with us, because we've been having a very interesting conversation before you joined us about this whole AI policy and the policy direction. And meet Mufuth Nkurunziza, who's actually a founder and CEO of Guess Show. They've been actually incorporating CGI, which actually relies on AI to be able to generate the content that they are actually generating for a living. It's what puts bread and butter onto their table. But I want us to be able to spend the last 30 minutes now for you to try and put perspective and share with us this AI policy and the road to actually achieving Rwanda's AI policy. Where are we at today? As we go towards this policy, what are the key pointers? Just three that you can be able to mention for us that will be able to make the use of AI within the Rwandan space be very responsible and also solutions driven. Over to you, Victor.
Thank you, Anangwe. I'm glad that at least you've unpacked the usefulness of AI. Actually, at the ministry, we understood that one of these emerging technologies, especially like AI, has that potential of leapfrogging Rwanda to its projected ambitions. So AI, even itself, as a technology, it has that potential of, the monetary potential is there, the monetary value of almost 6% of GDP that is projected if it's, and then there's some sectors like public administration, like education, like agriculture. All these things, we see that potential of AI really bringing to the table, if we call it the table as you mentioned, that monetary value itself. So we developed a policy just to make sure that not only to put some guidelines for AI, for responsible AI, but rather even to make sure that we manage it in such a way that we tell the people how it could be used, what are the do's and the don'ts, especially when it comes to data privacy. Of course, there are some pillars that maybe I will come back on, but some very good use cases are coming by. You can talk about AI in in agriculture, for instance, whereby there is I think we've been talking about generative AI. So some of these interesting use cases where, for instance, even not only in agriculture but even in health, where by like public health, we all know our health workers who are to the proximity of the people. They have to have that knowledge of diseases, so now bringing by that added value of generative AI in terms of maybe the most common known is ChatGPT. Yeah. But now think of a ChatGPT that is tailored for our people in Rwanda, that gives you that knowledge even before you really have to go into that, hardcore education, if I may call it like that. You understand that AI really brings that leverage. You can leverage on AI to bring value to whatever is being done. Right.
But let's still at that one, especially on the content aspect, because we spoke about it in the course of our initial stage of this conversation. We often, what we consume today has been generated and fed from outside, and so the context is lost. And leave alone even the language itself. We have now AI tools that can, simultaneously do translation of what I'm saying into any language, Mandarin, in my voice. But if we're talking about the generative AI, we will need to feed it with the right information, right language, right context. And we haven't gotten there yet. What is this policy driving us? How is this policy going to drive towards that in terms of the content, so that Rwandans, Africans, can be able to be part of the creators of these AI tools or generative AI, like you just said?
First of all, we need to be at the forefront of AI as Africans, as you mentioned. Our country, especially even Africa in general, we have the content to feed these models.
So what's missing?
So what's missing is really awareness, maybe, but also even positioning ourselves to be there in these new technologies and to not shy away. And if need be, let's put up policies that are adequate for us to utilize it in a good way, as you mentioned. I will talk about maybe someone who is generating your voice and who could maybe do something that is wrong. We should really put up policies. We shouldn't be, like stiffed or inhibited from progression just because some few people could use AI in a wrong way. And maybe just to add one thing is, as now that we are on the Labor Day, I've been hearing some of the misconceptions, people thinking AI is taking our jobs, right? But I think we need that mind shift. I think that's where I came in here to talk about that mind shift. Is a way of, let's all think like, not like employees, but employers. So AI is going to be our employee. We should really employ AI to do some of these activities that you want to do. I think I know some of the people, maybe our audience, maybe they are knowledgeable of maybe ChatGPT. At least there's some improvement. You've seen even people are generating emails, but now emails that are, that are making sense. That's just one use case. But now you can imagine when it comes to things like healthcare, like agriculture, like education. So how can we employ AI to get where we want to be?
And we asked that question actually, and we talked a bit about that, because there'll be a need to reskill the workforce with 21st century AI and data skills. This is what the AI policy, priority policy areas include. One of those areas is actually to create that mindset shift. Talk to us a bit about how easy or how difficult this is going to be, because there's a lot of mindset shift that is needed, especially within the private sector, the public sector, those within positions of influence, in actually shifting to be able to adapt and accept that AI tools are here. And so if you're a supervisor and found one of your employees immersed in an AI tool to be able to finish their work faster, then you do not reprimand them. Instead, you even encourage them because it's going to make your work easier and all that. These are some of the conflicting areas of thought process where people say, man, that person just used ChatGPT. That is not his own thinking process. So we've already started stigmatizing such kind of things. So how then will this policy drive the reskilling of this workforce to adapt to 21st century skills?
When it comes to reskilling of the 21st century, I think that mind shift is needed, as you mentioned. But it's a collective effort, I believe. Especially even what do we give value when you for our educators? What do they think of AI? How can we utilize AI in mainstream education? So I think maybe some of these things should really be revised a bit, especially when we're talking about, okay, if the goal was to see if someone has crammed the concept, then of course AI can really cannot help you to understand if such and such have understood the concept themselves. But if we become more open when it comes to education, how do we argue? How do we debate on issues? Then I think there is that human factor, whereby at least now we are opening up the minds of the educators and the people who are being educated to think beyond the box. That's one thing. But again, when you talked about those pillars, being very concrete, some of our centers of excellence have picked up these data science courses, programs, data science programs, AI programs. Maybe Carnegie Mellon, that they have even specialized masters for that. So we want to position our country, or maybe even Africa in general, because we have the data. That's the thing. Like, there's one thing to have a very good model, but the data is
not available.
Sure. And it's actually even a very natural progression. If you see our journey, our digitalization journey, whereby we've been digitalizing services, so that means that we have a lot of data, as we have a lot of wealth in that area in data. So now, how do we maximize that potential? How do we utilize the data that we have, that our people generate, to make sure that we feed these models with accurate data that actually gives the services that our people deserves.
Right. So I'm going to shift back to Mufut here and be able to try to understand also from where you sit in terms of Victor mentions the aspect of the availability and accessibility of AI-ready data. But how then do we ensure that that data is still relevant to us, and that data is actually what is going to be able to change or offer solutions to our practical day-to-day problems? For instance, we are witnessing flooding within the region. And so how do we make good use of AI to be able to tell us what we need to do to avoid the repercussions of the, changing climate and the weather patterns? Are we really utilizing this available data, like he says is available, to be able to come up with solutions to some of our day-to-day problems? And how do we do that?
I guess that's what the assignment is, which is to bring the data that has been produced, for many years ago, and then be fed into, these models, as has been saying. So definitely, for this to be practical, not all fields are equally practical. We've seen definitely, text, being at the forefront. This is what people have been using, but definitely AI doesn't end there. AI can be used, across all fields, but also different fields requires different, I'd say, they are at different levels, I would say, of readiness, you know. Yeah, right now it has been maybe much easier to deal with text learning, image generation, going into videos. But when you get into, you know, agriculture, healthcare, again, I cannot speak much of, you know, those industries. But I would say also, like, you know, many things are being, you know, done, you know, in the fields of, you know, agriculture or health, you know. And also, you know, AI generally, the way it works, you know, you take all the past experience data, is fed into something, and then sort of AI will act like as a human, you know, using, you know, the previous knowledge. You know, you could give suggestions or take a decision as a person. Yeah, and right now it's still not like, you know, at an advanced stage, because, you know, once, you know, we progress, it's going to be used in many things. You know, think of machines, you know, you can have, you know, a machine that is autonomous, that acts like a person, you know. You know, you can have, let's say, an AI housemaid, you know, and they will...
And you're here saying AI will not take people's jobs.
That's, yeah, so maybe, yeah, if, you know, I speak on that, definitely this is going to be a progression.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a progression.
Yeah.
And I want to bring in this question. Yeah. But I'll bring you back on that. Mushambo Robert, who's actually on our YouTube live stream, is asking, someone please elaborate more to our viewers the difference between ICT and the use of AI as a tool. And he comes up to say, so many people don't know the use and purpose of AI, especially those who use it for their daily work. Won't this kill human intelligence and capacity while we look for a more intelligent person in the future? And he finishes by saying, when would one use AI, especially at work? And are we looking at a tool under AI that will work, or rather look at Rwanda in particular, in case one needs information about any subject about this particular country? Very interesting questions here, and I want to give you a chance, Victor, in the short minutes that we still have. Please package for us in the easiest way possible, for persons who do not understand even the whole AI policy and what it defines AI as. How does it want AI to be utilized in this country? How will AI actually project the country to those who are looking for that data, if they're doing any kind of work that they want AI tools to help them with information about Rwanda? Maybe just 3 things that you want to share that highlight this particular policy, or 3 could be short, but you can add maybe 2 more.
Yeah, one of the things is, I think, when I started this conversation, I talked about how do we decentralize some of these concepts that are maybe hard to even talk about, like AI. How do we? My friend Mufti talked about how they themselves use it in their daily work, but how is our common person, you know, how is AI being relevant to them? But we have been seeing some of applications where ICT comes very handy in helping the very common person. I can even give examples like Smart Ngunganire, where the government subsidizing fertilizers for the people. They now understand how even the tool of how ICT can help them in their very basic daily life. So now couple that with AI, understand that now it's a more intelligent service. As Mufti said, taking better decisions because of the availability of the data, a very contextualized data. So we've been actually, what we at the ministry trying to do is really, how do we put in place those facilities to help AI to be very relevant to the common person. So some of these things is really into, of course we have the availability of data, but how do we share it? How do we have like the data sharing framework that is ongoing. How do we make it how do we make our data available for a very common person, how to the startups to understand that they can utilize this data to really come up with solutions, applications that could help them with their innovations. As Mufti, maybe I'm very lucky to be here with him as someone who's actually utilizing AI. So I would really mention that how people should really understand that as ICT has helped them in their daily lives, now we are coupling it with AI, artificial intelligence. Now it's going to be a better service with more intelligent connotation with it.
Yeah. So if I may ask you, on behalf or for the sake of someone who's watching and wants to understand this AI policy and its policy direction, what is it that is happening today that this policy is going to either help in fixing? For instance, the ethical use of AI. We talked about people using other people's images or voices to be able to portray a message that this person did not actually do. We've seen those kind of cases. Let's talk a bit about that area. How will this policy fix or work around the area of ensuring that there is ethical use of AI tools within this particular country?
Yeah, I think the policy is very precise on that. The pillars of this policy, I can mention them very quickly. There are 6 pillars. Yeah. They are like the enabling pillars. Of course, we're talking about education. How do we going to educate our people? We're talking about infrastructure. This AI is not. It of course requires like adequate infrastructure with proper computation powers for the models of AI. Of course, but also we'll talk about a data strategy that will help us to utilize AI. But among those pillars, there is also one that is very key, like ethical AI. How do we utilize AI in an ethical way? We have, if I may call them building blocks, we already have like the data protection law, the personal, the privacy and personal data protection law, that actually puts that buffer of how do you utilize people's data. Yeah. Now that AI is coming into play, of course, for the people who are trying to utilize it in an ethical way, can take advantage of an environment where there is no legal aspects when it comes to AI. So what I can just mention is that people should really, understand their rights, because your data is your data and you have a right to it. Of course, even the AI policy itself, people should also be informed that probably this service is also being generated with AI.
Yes.
You should have the right.
So that's what the policy says. If you use AI tools to generate any, you must label.
Yes, you must label. You must tell the person that. Of course, and not only for just for the sake of course the targeted person or the client person, but even how do you to the providers of AI? They should have also a way of an accountability of tell us why this model did this rather than that. It should be, of course, a human aspect on that. Of course, that the AI talks about how do we put that the human aspect on AI, especially on very sensitive cases like healthcare.
Interesting. Mfuta, I want to bring you in again on this conversation, especially as we drive towards the end of this conversation, is the aspect of the creators of AI content or probably solutions. We've had a bit of a challenge, especially when you even talk about those within the fintech space, for instance, who come up with apps and solutions that end up not being consumed by the target audience. For instance, someone comes up with a solution that can help a public sector X to actually fix Y problem, but there still has been that less of belief in our own creations or our own products. And so there's a lot of, taking up of what is being done by probably outside, because that seems to be better, because we believe that's how it is. So even you, as within the space that you are in, what is it that you'd like to see in terms of, kind of the items that you generate, the content that you generate, in terms of trying to fix certain problems? What would you want to see in terms of a change, a shift in the believing of local creations, local content? What would you like to see even this policy address in that area?
Yeah, there you have addressed real problem, I would say. Entrepreneur hustle. I mean, I'd say, I don't know, I've come to accept it. It's standard.
That they will not accept your creation because you're local.
Yeah, it's
a sad reality.
Yeah, it's a sad reality, but it is what it is. So, but then I guess, what to be done, it's, I guess with time, there are things you do, you probably get validated by the people or consumers, that typically wouldn't see what you're providing as something of value. Yeah, so, and also I should mention, in as far as AI right now is concerned, and as I have said, it's at different levels. There is a certain percentage of it that we are sort of using in the pipeline, but it's not where we want it to be. We wish it could be, even better. But as I have said, it's going to be quite, a transition, progress. We are baking in whatever is available right now, and then as it gets better, we go with it, basically. And also from the consumer or customer side, it's a typical struggle. We need to keep showing up, bringing up things that'll be hard for them to resist. Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Victor,
yes.
and Mufut, I feel this conversation is, like I said, is a first installment. It's actually the beginning of the many conversations we'll have. So if you could be able to just brief us on where we are at the level of this policy formulation, what stage are we, what's coming up next, when are we going to say, voila, ladies and gentlemen, the policy, where are we at this point, maybe as we close?
Yeah. There are some very interesting use cases that are happening. Seen some startups like Digital Muganda really coming up with solutions, utilizing AI. By the way, when we talk about decentralization of technology, we really think about how do we even utilize our local language, Kinyarwanda, in the context of AI, because, of course, it should be fed with Kinyarwanda data. We've seen very interesting use cases, especially.
I'm actually talking about the policy. Where is it at?
Yes. the policy is already in public. It's the public domain now. We're talking also about the even activities within the policy that should be within even the responsible institutions that are being assigned to do so and so. Yeah. With regards to AI, especially maybe education, as we mentioned about, we need to reskill and to even to have like a substantial skilled workforce in AI. That's one area. But of course, there is a lot of, I would maybe even really invite our audience to read it and to challenge it and to see what is it that should be improved by the policies on the public domain now.
Perfect. And what I believe is that maybe now we need to have another conversation with stakeholders or people within the space that are affected by this, and maybe take it a notch higher in trying to interrogate each and every of those elements, and who's going to play which role and how far they're playing that particular role, and what is needed to actually, fully get the best out of such a policy. Because sometimes what we see is we have very good policies, on paper, but on ground, it is actually not what we anticipated. And we are here to support as media to help in proper understanding and even understanding where the gaps and the bottlenecks are to be able to fix them. So I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for making the time on this public holiday, which I think right now you would be resting somewhere, but you accepted to come on the show. And of course, we want to say thank you to you who's been watching this particular conversation. And like I said, it's the first installment of the many conversations we're going to be having on this AI policy. AI today is the buzzword, but we want to make sure that it is working for us and we're not working for AI or it's taking people out of their jobs, as many have been able to say. So let's keep talking. And the hashtag, as always, is the Summit RW. We'll continue talking and seeing each other next time, same place at this particular session. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now. Thank you. We can go.